Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you are doing fantastic on this Friday. I've got another kind of like mixer episode for you today because this past Wednesday, we launched the newest private podcast series, the Ascending in Your Travel Business Audio Series, with 5 fantastic speakers. Lori Gold from Explore More Mexico, Dr. Terika Haynes from Dynamite Travel. She also happens to be the 2023 Travel Advisor, ASTA Travel Advisor of the Year. And then we have Angela Hughes of the Luxury Travel Social Media Facebook group. And then we also have the wonderful Edouard from Massive Travels. And last but very not least, one of my really good friends in this industry, Jackie Williams of NuVibe Luxe Travel. And they are all sharing their experiences, so some startup experiences to the current level where they're currently at in their business, which I call the ascending level, which is really that last level. Like, you've got all your foundational elements in, you are doing well at your rinse and repeat, meaning you're getting clients, keeping them and getting more clients, and you're also doing pretty decent with your scaling, your strategizing, your tools and tech, and making sure that your systems and workflows are in place. If you have any questions about what I deem like the 4 phases in your travel business, head on over to episode 84, where I kind of like outline what each of the 4 phases involves. But the 4th phase is what I call ascend. And I really wanted our speakers to kind of give us the nitty-gritty, because I know a lot of you may think that when you're ascending, like there's no troubles, it's just the best, it's the part in your travel business that you aspire to be in, because you've not figured everything out totally, but you figured out a lot of the big kinks to making this work and being profitable in your business. And so that's really what I wanted to highlight with these amazing speakers who all bring different facets to their interviews. I will say there are some key things that were repetitive within their interviews, like certain key things, like people who are at this ascend level, the CEO level, may be afraid, but they're also not afraid of taking action. Like, they are thinking bigger, they are thinking better, they're thinking in multiple ways. How can I generate revenue in multiple avenues? And it was just so interesting to hear their various takes on how they entered the industry, what they're currently doing, what kind of got them their first successes in the industry, and really what they're looking to now as they are in this CEO level role. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a snippet of each of those 5 interviews today. If you are registered for the Audio Summit, woohoo, you should be able to add those you should be able to add those episodes to your private podcast player at any time. If for some reason you registered, you didn't get the link, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to hook you back up again. If you have not registered, go ahead. There's a link in here, or you can head over to travelbiztraining.com to register. It is only $5. And also there is an upsell, and I will add that onto here just in case you did already register and you did not register for the mentorship think tank. We have a really great small group already that's enrolled for the mentorship think tank. It's happening Tuesday, August 22nd at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for 1 hour. It's a private Zoom session with me and some of your travel industry peers, just to really talk about what happened and what was said in the audio series and what you can take from the audio series and really implement in your business. So if you're looking for a little bit of support from people who are really wanting to succeed and get to the next level in their businesses, this think tank is for you, and it is only $10 to join us. So I hope I see you there. And yes, it will be recorded. It's beneficial if you're there live, but in case you can't make it live, it will be recorded and you will have access to that recording. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's go ahead into our first interview with the wonderful Angela Hughes.
So I've never done anything like in a box or normal, which probably drove my parents crazy.
I love that though.
Yeah, I mean, from one entrepreneur to another, we're all motivated by that, but
Right.
your parents aren't. They're like, oh my gosh,
Safe.
I've never done anything in a box, and I've always run on a disruptive entrepreneur train, looking for techniques, technologies, systems, tools, all of that are going to make me a little bit better. And I've noticed, a lot of people in the industry run like, oh, you grow up and do this in the industry, and you start this way, and you join a consortium, and you build a storefront, and then you get ICs. And there's been a pattern that's been successful for people. In 2020, I thought I've got to look at this differently, because a lot of those people are aging in age. I mean, really like 60s, 70s. They've done things the right way, but I'm young 50s, and I'm like, hey, we're working in a world of technology. I've got to do some things different. I'm not going to give out all my secrets on here until they all happen. I'm looking at a lot of different things to do things a little bit different than how a host agency was run 10 years ago, and taking some risks that I hope will pay off.
Yes. No, and that's one of the things that I feel like we gel really well on, is that forward thinking, that modern thinking, that the travel industry now is not the same industry that it was. I got in about 12, almost 13 years ago. And I know you have been in since the 80s.
Oh, geez. Yeah. 84. Do we say?
Okay. I don't remember. But you were very young when you got started, because you saw your parents growing the agency. And I think like that, like you have to have a forward mentality to keep pushing forward and do things differently, because as we see, the things that used to be and the people that are stuck in that old world, like I don't want to embrace the new things that are happening, are the ones that are going to be left behind. It's just a process of personal evolution, but also professional evolution, that things change. And how are you going to adapt to things changing?
Exactly. I look back at my parents, like they didn't want to grow. And, in the 2 decades that we were pretty much not a storefront, all of a sudden you had all of these host agencies popping up, the cruise planners and the TPI, all of these connections and all these different host agencies just bringing on thousands of people. They never wanted that. I mean, they were in their 60s going, hey, we just want to travel, got to make ends meet. We're kind of done with this whole thing after, since being in the early 80s for them. And I look back now, there's a little bit of regret that I didn't say to them. I remember the first time I went to like a Travel Leaders Network national conference, or maybe it was just a show somewhere. I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these people in these cruise planner shirts. There's like millions of them, and wasn't really even like putting two and two together. Like I'd kind of for a decade stopped going to fam trips and stopped going to events and everything. I mean, I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it with my kids. And I was like, I don't want to waste time with a bunch of advisors traveling if I can take my kids and do it. And did the same thing, kind of, these self-initiated FAMs and so forth. But there's a little bit of regret of not being, I mean, it's hard to say, because we were so heavy like on our humanitarian work and that side for 10 years that, there were just other values in our life, but there's a little regret of not maybe being a little more in tune with things. Like I didn't really jump on my consortia train until pretty much 2019, when I reached out to him and said, hey, we're going to be making a change. I didn't use any of their platforms or marketing or things like that. But, looking back, I'm like, I think it kind of worked out the way it was supposed to, I was raising kids. I wanted my family to be a priority. I wanted our humanitarian work to be a priority, and, things work out the way they're supposed to. So there's no regrets. Maybe I would have done one or two things different, but.
Right. Well, and I think that's such an important thing to also like just bring to the forefront too, that everybody has different motivations for being in business. And there's different priorities in life. So yes, somebody may do it X way, but Y way actually works best for you. What would you say, kind of like looking throughout all the years and possibly even the past 3 years, has been the biggest factor of growth for the business? And this could be
Yeah.
maybe a action that you did or a personality trait even?
Well, I'd probably say the biggest factor was when we started charging fees, 5-6 years ago, because that game changed to the type of client that we took.
Okay.
And I think now looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm actually glad that some of those people left me, even though they were friends, family, they'd been with us for 20 years. I just was tired of selling transactional travel.
Thank you, Angela. I hope you enjoyed that little snippet. There is so much more goodness in the audio series to listen in on. And you'll see that this is a running theme, as I mentioned before. Angela talked about being somebody who is not in the box, and Angela for sure is not in any sort of box. And so what can you do that kind of gets you a little bit out of the box as well and positions you really to being an expert at the travel that you sell really well or the people that you really service, and really like getting you to that next level in your travel agency? So let's move on to our next speaker, and that is the wonderful Dr. Terika Haynes.
Your mindset has to be one that's big. I see, and not just in the travel industry, just in business in general. And sometimes with students that I may be teaching, their thinking is small, and it could be for, a myriad of reasons as to why the mindset is that way. But I think what really helped me was to just think big. Like, for example, I've lived different places, but I never wanted to just focus on local marketing. Why? There's a whole country of people that travel.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like thinking big, like thinking outside of your county, your city, your state. How big can you think? I mentioned earlier, I have clients outside of the country. If I thought small, I would probably tell them, sorry, I only work with clients in the US. You know what I mean? So just not limiting yourself and thinking big, thinking beyond where you are. I think that is something that gets people stuck as well, because they can only focus on where they are right now, as opposed to thinking about where they could be or where they're going. And so that's another thing too, I think.
Yeah. Are there any tasks that you kind of do on a daily basis to kind of like get into that the zone of like, okay, what can I do next that's going to position me for this next big goal that I have on my journey?
I think it's a gift and a curse, but I feel like my brain never shuts down. It's like always going. I'm not a great sleeper, and I think it's because my brain is literally always going. Like, I think it was a few nights ago, I had a dream about this amazing blog, and when I woke up, I couldn't remember the dream. So I don't know it was like, oh, I'm gonna write this blog. It was a great topic. I had like bullet point outline in my dream, like bullet point, and but then when I woke up, I was like, what was I dreaming about? And so like my brain is like never off. And like I said, it's a gift and a curse because your brain needs to rest. Everything needs to rest. But it's a gift because I'm always thinking of like new ideas, new things. And I think it's just maybe a personality thing or who I am. But my brain is like always going. And so to answer your question, I got off a little bit. For me, it's always like, let's just take, for example, winning the award this year.
Yeah.
As soon as I won the award, I was like, okay, what am I going to do to use this platform? Like, how can I help other travel advisors? How can I do this? How can I do that? What can I, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm always thinking about what's next. And so again, that can be a curse because you do need to, also capitalize on the present and appreciate the present and be present. And so for me, I'm always like, what's next? What can I do next? Where can I pivot? Where can I grow? Like, I'm not comfortable with being like stagnant. I always want to feel like I'm growing, that I'm learning new things, that I'm doing new things, I'm experiencing new things, I'm teaching people new things. And so I think some of that is just my personality, but it helps me as a business owner because I'm always trying to figure out what's next. And people have said, oh, you won this great award, like there's nothing beyond that. And I'm like, no, this is just the start. Like, this is just like, there's so much more beyond this, like that I can do. You know what I mean? And that's my mindset. Like, I'm like, no, this isn't the end. Like, maybe there isn't another award per se, but there's so many other things I can be doing after this. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my mindset. Some people might be comfortable and say, well, got the award, I'm done here. Like, you know what I mean? But for me, I'm like, how can I use this to get me to the next level, whatever that is? I may not know what that level is, but I know there's another level out there, if that makes sense.
Exactly. No, and that's full disclosure. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on and participating in this audio series, is because I wanted somebody that recently, and who better than the travel advisor of the year to Asta, to kind of share just a little bit of how they got where they currently are. Now, thinking in terms of a CEO, in terms of you are really ascending and growing and flourishing in your business, a lot of people are like, oh, yes, exactly what you were saying. Like, that's it. Like, they must not have any troubles or worries. Like, they are at the top of the game. And I know that there's challenges at this level as well. So what would you say are some, or the biggest challenge that you're currently facing in your business?
I think one of the biggest challenges right now is balancing my time, because I do have some ideas that I'm working on, and I'm trying to pivot in a few things, but I still really do enjoy being a travel advisor and working with clients. So one of the challenges right now, and with the award, there's been a lot of unexpected changes that have come that I didn't even plan for last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So balancing my time with, you know, some of the new projects and new strategic plans that I'm trying to do, with not leaving my clients in the dust, because without them, I wouldn't be here. So kind of just balancing my time and figuring out how to prioritize different things that I'm trying to work on is probably one of my biggest challenges right now.
This interview really had me oozing, because I just love the concept of thinking big, thinking out of the box, and also thinking what's next. And really, when you've hit this level of success, that you're in the CEO level, that is what the CEOs think about. If you are looking at any CEO of any major corporations, any companies, they are not the ones that are doing everything in the companies. They have teams for that. And just like you'll hear Terika speaking a little bit later on in her interview, if you have the audio series, she talks about that and really focusing on strategic experts in their own field. And so when you have other people who are able to focus on the little things, the little operations in your business, you are able to start thinking, okay, how can I increase my reach? How can I increase my visibility? What strategic partnerships that can I take advantage of? And I just loved Terika's viewpoint on all of this. So let's now head over to our next interview with Mr. Edouard Jean.
I just wanted to build my business on my own merits, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I wanted to nourish my relationships with the different BDMs or reps of different properties or suppliers. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lost art. Again, I think some travel agents don't know how to nourish, or that word networking gets in the way. And they don't know, you know, sometimes I call my supplier, my BDMs, and say, hey, no business. I just want to see how you're doing. What's going on? Well, I remember your daughter was graduating. How did that go? And I think doing that really sets me apart from some other travel advisors. So that way, if something goes wrong, if I need something or request or anything, I'm not just calling on that. They know me. We build a relationship. So now, I have an emergency. and you help me out with this. Not to say they're not going to help everyone.
Right.
But I've known some reps who you know what, who called me on, hey, do you know this particular agent? I just got a call from this person. I don't really know who they are, but they're asking for XYZ. That shouldn't be. You should be nourishing your own relationships. And I try and get that to my ICs, as well as my colleagues, and try to bring that home. Like, you need to nourish those relationships because this is it's a human industry.
Totally. I love that you mentioned that because that's I don't think people or host agencies or consortia or the industry as a whole, there's no how to build relationships with people within the industry 101. Yeah. No one really talks about that yes, if you're in trouble, you need to go to your BDM. But I love where you just mentioned the part of having like an actual human relationship and connection and talking about somebody's graduation and it just goes to show, because I'm sure a lot of those relationships, because you have nurtured them more than just the surface level, have brought benefits to you outside of just the normal, like 911, I need help.
For sure. I've had destinations give me a unique opportunity. So let's say they're having something on the island. One, two, twice I've been approached to be the exclusive travel agency in the U.S. to sell the packages for that destination for that event, based on me just going a little extra. I'm assuming based on me going a little extra on my relationship, my networking.
That is incredible. And I feel, and part of my mission and a little bit of what we were talking about earlier is that there are so many things that we're fed and we're being told to do X, Y, and Z. But again, nobody's talking about this relationship piece and how everything in your business really needs to start from relationships and everything else will kind of fall into line. Like once you have certain relationships with your clients and on the supplier end, client end, you'll know exactly who to market to, who to make the sales to, what to be selling them. On the supplier end, you'll know what to be offering and all those like hidden gems that people might not be able to figure out on their own.
And even on I had a colleague who forgot or lost her headphones at a destination.
Okay.
And had a relationship with a BDM who was going to be at that destination. He offered to be like, yo, I'm going to be there. Give me a contact. I'll get those headphones for you. The next time we meet, I'll have them. That's a relationship.
Yes.
So even on that level, it's just, it works on all facets of business or personal. I think. And I think the word networking really, like I said, a lot of people are social.
Right.
They can talk to whoever, but then when you say, oh, you're networking, they're like, oh, I don't know how to network. Yeah, you do.
Yep. And it's simple. It's really making friends.
Yeah.
But in a different word.
Yeah.
And how are you making friends that might buy from you eventually? And how are you making friends that just really like who you are and are like, hey, you need to work with this person because they're amazing at what they do.
Yeah, for sure. And who was it? Was it Gary Sanders from Sandals one time? Came up for one of the Sandals events, dining, and he said something, and this is 2008, and it still resonates to me. What good is it if you have gold at half price if no one knows about it?
Right.
So that's, for me, is like marketing, and indirectly building networking is part of marketing.
If it isn't clear to see, I enjoyed all of my interviews, but I really enjoyed this one with Edouard a lot because of that emphasis on relationship building. I know that there's so many different marketing factors, and you have heard me talk about this a lot, but really, if you don't have relationships and if you're not thinking, what relationships can I build? Relationships can I deepen? Can I strengthen? Not only just something that's going to be generating revenue, but also within the industry, because there's lots of different relationships that you have. I actually have a relationship with the industry that sent me over a referral, and that would have never happened if I wasn't talking about what I do. So it's always who are you talking to? Who are you getting in front of that may be able to assist you in some way? Because there's so many different ways that we can assist each other in our businesses, but it only happens if you're getting in front of the right people. Alrighty, let's head on over to our next interview with Jackie Williams.
Let's just say I want to introduce yachting to my client base, but I have no idea who will be interested in that experience, or expanding into more expedition, which is one of my key my personal passions. You know, which of my clients are interested in nature and wildlife and observation and science? Like, I have no record of that. No documentation other than this in my brain. And at this age, girl, things are not keeping up.
I mean, but that's a lot, especially with the big book of business that you're doing.
Right.
That's a lot to store in there. And that's also like a plug for using technology, or at least some sort of system. If you don't want to use technology, at least like have a really good, I guess, file folder system, even though I'm like, that's a lot of papering.
It really is. And so just finding the right tool. So as you know, I'm in tech as my key, like, that's just who I am. I'm just the tech girl. I'll take it. I'll take it. And so I've been interviewing a lot of technology companies who are wanting to be the next big thing. And I just been giving them the hard questions. And a lot of them are just recreating more booking platforms. And so, yeah, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for us, but there's a few. I won't necessarily put them out because I didn't get their approval and blessing for that. But there's a few who's transparent and looking to really bring in some real time feedback. And let's just say that's promising.
Yeah. It's really great.
That's very promising. So I'm excited, but it's not helping me nor anyone else in the moment. So it's very challenging. So you find yourself creating these custom forms and, sending out all these different surveys to your clients, and they're not in the same tool. And even if it was in the tool, it's not queryable. So you can't really run metrics on it or pull it or search on it. So it's hard. It's very hard, girl.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear things from that perspective. And I hope that everybody has enjoyed listening thus far, because this is what I love about doing these audio series and the variety of people that I bring on, is because everybody has a different perspective on things. And so while you had mentioned before, like, don't strictly don't do something because somebody else is doing it, I at the very least hope that this has given like motivation and also clarity on the things that you should be doing to really help you ascend in your travel business.
I hope so too. As you know, Rita, thank you for inviting me. This always comes from my heart. I never know what we're going to talk about.
Right. We never know what wheel we're going to go down, what rabbit hole. No, go ahead.
No, I'd just like to just share with everyone to stay encouraged and to seek the right help and really focus on finding the who and not worrying about the how. We are not meant to operate a business 100% on our own. But the scarcity mindset that many of us have come into this industry with keeps us feeling like you have to do everything.
Right.
Increase your fees to be able to hire support staff for your business.
Right.
You really have to start changing how your approach is to operating. We're only one person.
Right.
And a lot of us are really putting a lot of strain on our health. And this business is not fun anymore for a lot of people because of that. And If no one is time to say no and maybe decide to do something different, because a business is to make money, it's to profit from.
Right.
And so if this is something that you're putting all this industry energy in and you're not profiting, that's okay. Let the pride go and change gears.
Mm-hmm.
And just live, man. We got to live.
Yes.
We can get a life and breath. We just got to survive and live.
Amen to that. Before we go, I've been asking everybody this similar question, that if there was anything, wait, hold on, let me say it correctly. If you could do anything differently to put you in a better position today, what would it be?
I would have started out selling luxury.
Really?
Day one.
I love everybody's answers to this question.
Yeah,
Why
I
is
would have
that?
because who told us we had to work our way up to it?
Oh, that's a mic drop moment there. As you can see, I love mic drop moments. And really, like, that's the difference in thinking that we need to have. Like, there's certain norms and traditions that are within any industry, but what can you do to break those norms? Because again, as Jackie mentioned, who said that you had to start at a certain point anywhere? Like, there's certain places that we all start at, but who said you had to, like was mentioned just now, like work your way into luxury? If you want to be selling a luxury product, if you want to be selling an expedition product, if you want to be selling a product that you really admire but have no idea about, just jump in there and do it. And if you don't know how, like Jackie mentioned, you'll figure out the how. You'll figure out the how when you know exactly what you're selling and who you're selling to. It just comes together. It's kind of freaky when that happens, but it is amazing. So let's get on with our last interview of this series, Ms. Lori Gold.
My agency was invited to the Charisma GIVC Awards ceremony, and they, for some reason, asked me if I wanted to go. I mean, I was newer in the industry. I hadn't been selling much of charisma. Like, it's not like I necessarily earned that, but they sent me. And it was my first time to an all-inclusive. It was my first time to Mexico. My family really only we had a condo in Miami on the beach. So that's where we went for our vacations, you know? So it's my first time going to something like this. And it honestly changed my life, like in every way. I became obsessed with the whole all-inclusive concept. I became obsessed with Mexico, charisma. I went from selling like none to being there at that time. Their top was like Diamond 5. So within a few years, being like one of their top producers. And it just went on from there. And I realized, like, wow, seeing something makes selling it so much easier. And so I would just keep coming down and down and down to Mexico, plus all their award ceremonies, you know, were always here. So I would always be invited and coming down and extending my trips and getting free stays and all these things. And that's sort of also what made me want to move to Mexico. That first trip really, really changed everything, and changed the course of my life and made me, you know, want to specialize in this area. Again, I didn't think that I could. I was still selling everything, but people could hear my passion. And I think that is something I really want to convey in this interview, is that when you're passionate about something, it makes it 1,000 times easier to sell it. Your clients can hear it, even if it's by email, they can still hear it. They can hear your excitement, your passion, and how much you know about it. And that helps sell so much more easily than anything else. And really having been there is important for that, I believe.
Right. And I love it because it's something, and I've talked about this on the main podcast before, it's something like that's very intangible. It's not something that you can quantify by saying like it's these demographics and it has this many rooms and all that. It's more of like an internal feeling that you get. For people that don't like really understand what that is, can you, and I know it's a little tricky to like articulate, but what was it? Was it a dish? Was it the culture? Was it a certain experience that was like, oh my, like I didn't know that this part of the world lived like this, or that travel could be like this?
I can't think that it was one specific thing. It was just overall, and you know, it wasn't, I mean, of course it was the hotel and the people and whatever, but it was more that I had the best time. And that can make a big difference too. When you have an amazing time and you meet fun people and, you know, you explore and you do fun things, like that can make or break a trip, right? And I feel like that's sort of what it was. Like, sure, the hotel was great, sure, the food was great, sure, the entertainment, like all that was fine, but it was more like the people that I met and the experiences that we had with them really, that wouldn't necessarily happen in Canada where I'm from, you know, like you just wouldn't have those same types of experiences that really made it for me, I think.
Okay. This is starting to bring up, because I recall, I think it was this past weekend or a couple days ago. Obviously we're not recording when this is going live, but you had, I guess there was just like a consumer Facebook group talking about like what should be like what's the best all-inclusive that I could visit in Mexico. And I love how you added in like all the nuance to like, well, what I say is the best might not be the best for you, and the importance of like that matchmaking aspect of what a travel advisor does in the business.
Yes, for sure. The question was, what is the most luxurious resort in Mexico? And so that I do believe, okay, yes, different people think different things about luxury. And if it's your first trip and you have room service, that might be luxury to you. But there are sort of also cut and dry, you know, things that luxury is and is not in terms of a hotel. And I believe if you're looking for true 5-star actual luxury, there are only a certain amount, right? Like there's this one, there's this one, there's this one, and then there's this one and this one. Like, you know, anything else might feel luxury to you, but it's actually not necessarily luxury in the actual way that people would think of it. But then their question to me was, which one would you pick? Well, it doesn't matter which one I would pick. It matters what you're looking for, and that means something different to everyone. Like, do you want a small resort, a big resort, far from the airport, far from excursions or close to excursions? Are you a pool person, beach? Like there's a million things on how to qualify someone for this specific area, for the Mexican Caribbean, never mind like the rest of the world. So yes, very nuanced.
Right. No, and I think like that's when travel advisors don't know how to articulate what their value is. That's something that real matchmaking aspect, the ability to decipher and discern where someone should go and where someone they shouldn't, based on asking the right questions too. So would you say like it was part of that office setting that helped you kind of like curate and narrow down the questions that you would ask when you were working with clients?
For sure. I think like it taught me everything. And again, I wish that everyone could have that experience. And I'm actually, I have a qualifying guide that I created just for the Mexican Caribbean that's ready to go. I just need to figure out the best way to get it to the people that need it. Because truly, I think that is so important. Like, yes, qualifying them. And that is where we stand out, and asking the right questions and then matching them with the right resort. That's always like my favorite part is, you know, learning about the clients and then matching them with the correct place for them.
I hope that you have enjoyed this kind of like recap episode, getting a little bit of the glimpse of the interviews. All of the interviews ran about like 30 to 50 minutes. So if you want to get more in depth than just these little snippets, please go ahead and register for the Ascending in Your Travel Business audio series. It is only $5. And then remember, this Tuesday, the 22nd at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do a mentorship think tank for an hour. And I would love for you to participate and really let's collaborate and let's lift each other up. Just as that quote says, rising tides lift all ships. So let's be the rising tide for each other in the industry. All right, make sure to access all the links in the show description, and I will see you here next week. Have a fabulous week, everybody.